This is Moonshine and Occult Corner meeting up again, and we are about to have a look at a few tips and tricks of using JavaScript while I'm getting ready to prepare dinner and the Cultural Corner is getting ready to go to work. Let me see if I can get my bandwidth up, and then I'll share my screen. So for those of you who's not in the know, I am one of the happy developers of the D-Connect team, and so is Occult Corner. And we have just been discussing the idea of using JavaScript in the browser and allowing the browser to take the role of being a debugger. I still see Occult Corner is on mute, but I'm sure he'll be with us in a sec.
Yeah, I just got the coffee machine going and stuff.
I'm just going to start at Ledge Project. Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
I'm going to start at Ledge Project, just so that we have some blank space to work in, because we're actually going to do most of what we're doing in the browser. In the browser. Yeah. So everything you do in JavaScript, from the moment that JavaScript loads, gets fed into it line by line, like a document. Think of JavaScript like a Linux command line. Are you digging? You there, my man? I'm not hearing you.
Yeah.
Okay. So when your program starts, which is this moment, right? Now the program has started. It goes from the top of the index document. And if it encounters any JavaScript, which is in the script tags, right? Whether it be an external load or whether it be inline in the document, it's going to process it. So you see here, it's processing script.js. And here it's processing button.js from Glitch. So if you look at how this, the order of events that it occurs, this is higher up than that. And this is in the head, right? So there's an order in which JavaScript fires off. And that's very crucial to how it's happened, how it all happens. And if you bear in mind that JavaScript is a series of events that happens line by line, like a command line, then you'll understand it a lot better. Are you following so far what I'm trying to describe, or do you have any questions at this point?
No, I'm clear. I understand what's going on.
Okay. So what's happening is when we've reached the end of the file and everything's been processed, our command line, our console in the browser, represents that point. It represents being here. So all of this has already executed, and we are now at the end of the file, allowing us to execute more things, right? So let's try something interesting. Delete this stuff. In our script file, I'm going to say test equals test, or test 1, 2, 3, right? Just something simple. Test equals test 1, 2, 3.
All right.
If I now say test over here, you see the information's there. In the you see down here.
Yeah, I see it.
So I'm able to interact with all of the data that's on the page over here in the JavaScript console. That's the crucial thing to remember, right? If I say, let's say somewhere in the program, right, I've got users set up, and like somewhere else in the program, a user gets added. I can still check it up in my browser. You see there? I can see user, and I can see the user that's been added to it later down in the program. So any data that I've got stored in the program, I'm able to look up reference here in the console, right? Which is acting as a command line for JavaScript. And I can even call up functions that have been written here. So if I want to say, like, let's say I want to create a function, add user, and that adds John to the users, right? Let's make it even more interesting. So now if I say users, it's empty, right? But if I say add user, John at gmail.com, and now I look at users, you see there he is. Now if I add another user and I say Mary at gmail.com, I look at users. Oh, did I break it? I did something wrong. Oh, here we go. It's applying it to John the whole time. If I look at users, it starts off empty, right? If I add John, and then I add Mary, and I look at it again, you'll see both of the users in there. So now I've created something that adds users to an in-memory user database, right? And I've managed to debug it. I've managed to see if everything works. And I've managed to create some kind of a baseline for how it can get used in code. Because if I copy and paste the code that I used in my console into my glitch project, then it still works. There's no difference between running it in the JavaScript console and running it in the actual program. You see, there it is. You understand what I'm saying? So for prototyping, everything you do, you test it in the console first. Simple as that. Now let's say we've got something that is derived that happens over here, okay? So let's say name and email, and say here, name and email, name plus email. Right, you see there it creates name and email. But let's say something is going wrong at this part of my program, right? Now I need to debug it. I need to use the debugger to find out why it's going wrong. Okay, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Okay. So let's say for instance, right, there's 21 is my error. Like there's 21 appearing between every name and email on the name and email field. And I want to see why. And I have no idea why it's happening. It's happening somewhere in my code, right? What I can do is I can go to add user. I can put a console.log in here. Let's say just a breakpoint. And so what it's going to do is going to print the word breakpoint down here every time it runs. So you can see, I can already see how my program's operating. I can already see that this piece of code ran twice. You see there? Additionally, I can also like add variables in here. And when it prints it out, I'll be able to see it down here, john@gmail.com, mary@gmail.com, right? But you see now I'm already wasting time because it hasn't explained to me why there's a 21 in there. So what I want to really do is I want to click on, you see here on the right-hand side, there's like script.js and the line of code where it's happening. If I click on it, it will display the location in the code where all of this is going down. You see there's console.log breakpoint, name, email. So that's what made it print. So it referred back to itself, back to its own line of code. And you can get to it that easily. So what you're going to do like is typically you're going to pause at some point here. You see it when I click, it goes blue.
Yeah.
Right. So now if I run it, every time it hits that piece of code, it's going to pause. You see there's the resume button. So I know already that this piece of code runs twice. So if I click resume now, it's going to pause there again. And if I click resume again, the program will finish. You know, it'll run, like the web page will run, because it's not hitting that piece of code anymore. So I know now that it's running twice, you know. And I can also see here, you see there, it's starting to dump out information here, because anything that happened in the past over here will start dumping out crucial information. So you see there, it says add user, name, comma, email, and then it says here, at the moment, the name is John, and the email is john@gmail.com. And then here it says name and email equals John21. Ah, here's the 21, the stray 21 that we were looking for, right? See there. So I can see the problem occurred somewhere over here, and I can see there, okay, name 21 plus email. So then I can go into my code and say, let's remove that piece, because I know where it is. I know where the problem is. I've debugged it. And now, first time I run it, I see, okay, now it's john@gmail, exactly what I expect it to be. You understand what I mean? Because it's still pausing at this point for me. And now I can say resume, and now it says mary@gmail.com, exactly what I expect it to be. So this piece of code has now been successfully debugged. That's what the debugger does, and that's what the console does. So, like, if you want a copy of the glitch project, looks like this. But it's pretty much stuff that you should already be familiar with. So the big thing is here that you can find a line of code in your program by putting a console.log in your code. And then what will happen is it'll print something into your console, and that allows you to click on it, and it will take you to the piece of code in the debugger. And you can pause code anywhere by inserting a breakpoint and refreshing your page.
That would be like just like to find code, like if I had misspelled something or
absolutely. Or well, it's not just if you misspelled something, dude. What if your program is doing something unexpected? What if you spelled everything right and the program's doing something unexpected? How would you ever solve that problem if you couldn't pause the program and inspect the information step by step? Over here, I can say, proceed to the next line of code. You understand what I'm saying? I can pause the program and I can freeze time and inspect every piece of information that's running, that's creating this situation that we're dealing with. And that is the crucial part. If you don't know, if you cannot pause the program at that point in time and know exactly what is leading to the problem, you'll never be able to solve the problem. But if you can pause the program over there and inspect the variables, that led to your problem, you immediately know what the error is. There's no way that you can fail at discovering what your problem is. So it's the difference between these programmers that, like backyard programmers, that sit at home and they're poking around in the dark trying to fix an error for 3 weeks, and a professional programmer that, if he's got an error, he opens up the debugger, inspects it, and it's gone. It's out of the way. So that's why when people hiring developers, they want people who are proficient with these tools, because they don't want them getting stuck the whole time, dragging the whole team down. They want them to be able to fix their own bugs, be able to solve their own problems, and not leave bugs lying around. So they want them to be proficient at these tools, especially proficient at these tools. It's also like when you're making your own programs, it makes the difference between having to spend 3 months making it and like 3.
Would bugs be considered like the red dots along the glitch?
No, dude, bugs are anything. Bugs are anything unexpected.
All right.
You expect your program to do one thing, it did something else.
All right.
So like if you, for instance, click on a button and nothing happens, that's a bug. Or whatever, you know. Any like operational fault classifies as a bug, like when you're making software. Yeah, and so that's it, man. That's a JavaScript debugger. There's really nothing else to know about it. I mean, there is actually 1 or 2 things. It's got like watches and a few other useful tools, but that's basically, if you get tired of using it that way, you can go explore it some more and make use of some of the extra features that it has.
Yeah, but first I gotta fucking write JavaScript first. Like I gotta like learn how to use JavaScript.
That's how you write it. You write it in there. You write it in the JavaScript console, and when it works, you copy and paste it into your glitch project.
All right. So
and you'll never be able to write something that doesn't work because you're testing it first. And you're not only testing it first, but you're testing it afterwards with the debugger. So if anything goes wrong, you know where to fix it. You don't have to ask anybody for help. You know where to fix it. You know where to look.
That's right.
That's the big thing. Like the difference between like being able to do something, not being able to do something, is are you going to get stuck? And the debugger means you'll never get stuck. It's impossible to get stuck. It's the same thing with CSS styling. If you use the inspector, you'll never have to know how to use CSS. There's nothing else that you need to know because the inspector shows everything and you can edit it in real time.
Yeah.
The console.
I haven't been using or haven't learned much CSS, but I know how to grab it from web pages and like check it out and fucking grab whatever.
Yeah. So there's one last thing that you need to know, and that's when you pause the code in the debugger, that places your console in that line of code. So if you actually want to like you can actually pause your programs anywhere in the program and then run a piece of code at that exact location and see what it does. And so that's crucial. So let's say you want to add a new piece of code to your program. You can pause your program in that place where the piece of code is going to get added, and then you can test it in the JavaScript console and see what it returns. See if you're getting the results you're looking for. Every single time before I start writing something like that's going to look up like a table in an EOS database or something, I first test the code in the JavaScript console. I first write it out. If it runs, I copy and paste it, and it's already a working piece of code. It's not something that I have to fiddle with to get it working.
I don't know how to write it. I don't know JavaScript enough to read it and write it and run it in the console. I'm not even there. Go back to square one and learn what I can do with the JavaScript.
Sure. I mean,
like I go back to like like what is JavaScript, and you know, why do people you need JavaScript, or I don't know, like I need to go back to the basics and learn from there and start learning.
So
like
if
I
you
feel
want
like
to
I know
do
it,
that, you can do that.
but
But they are gonna, like, the moment you start doing that, you're gonna realize you know everything they're trying to teach you. Because they're gonna say, "Oh, JavaScript's something that runs in the browser." Oh, didn't you know that already? Like,
yeah. But I don't know. I don't know. I just feel like I can look at some JavaScript, know what it's doing. I could look at React components and know how the React component is working, but I just don't know. Like I can't write it out. I maybe I need to just practice.
you don't need to. You can just copy and paste it. Copy and paste bits and pieces.
Yeah,
you just need to be able to read it.
That's what I've been doing. Just learning
And
how.
you copy and paste it into the JavaScript console first, and then you modify it and test it, and make sure that your modifications work before you put them into your program.
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah, and so there is literally nothing you don't know, because there's nothing you cannot find out there that you can copy and paste. And that's how I've been programming since I've started. There's no difference.
Grabbing codes, grabbing it and seeing it over and over again and doing it again.
Grabbing examples. Eventually what you've got is you've got your own examples to grab. So eventually you don't go looking on the internet the whole time. You go looking at your own programs. I saw every step of the way I'm using example code, copying it and pasting it. I never write something. Even when I write something, I'm directly reading from the documentation how to write it. There is never a single moment when I write something out of my head.
That's pretty much what I've been doing, is just going to the documentation and grabbing their examples and then applying them. And that's how I've been able to do shit from Facebook login and Google account login authentication. Like I learned that shit all just from reading the documentation.
Straight up, dude. I did that the same. Like even Steam, everything, dude. Even like Steam Connect, I had to go read from the documentation how to use Steam Connect. Then I found out that they never finished writing their documentation, so I had to go to the Discord. I had to ask the team, how do I use this tool? And they said, "Oh, you got to do this and that." I'm like, "Why isn't this in the documentation?" You know, like that. Every step of the way, every single thing you do, you think is going to be 30 minutes, ends up taking 3 weeks because you got to go figure out how.
Yeah. That's what Coding Phase was saying. This dude, Coding Phase, he has a channel on YouTube. He's saying, like, you know, be wary about you jumping into new frameworks and new technology coming out, because a lot of the time the documentation is shit. Like all the big stuff is written out for you, but once you get deeper into doing some other shit, you wished you would have stuck with the fucking tools that everyone already uses that work.
Even EOS, like, they're like all the tools have been updated recently, but there's no documentation for the new tools. It's like also you got to like use a little bit of the old documentation and then a little bit of the new documentation, which is very thin. And then a lot of guesswork in between, and then ask for Stack Overflow when you get stuck. And then hope you're not asking stupid questions that leads to people telling you read the fucking manual, which is nearly non-existent, you know. It's like it's what I like about it is it's like being in the Wild West, but information wise.
That's right. Yeah, man, I just gotta fucking learn my JavaScript, how to write it out and all that shit. I feel like I want to learn how to create like certain things happening in the browser. Like I want to be able to do that shit on my own. Like I can't write it out from scratch. And I've seen you do it.
What I would suggest you do is maybe look at the Deconnect blog source code, because that's a wonderful lots of examples in there, like for doing a single task, like downloading something from HTTP, or making an AJAX request, or getting something from EOS.
Yeah, I was thinking about doing the battles, elemental battles EOS tutorial. just to fucking figure out how I can get blockchain and
Oh, dude,
JavaScript.
that's too hardcore, man. That's too hardcore. Don't go that far.
Why not?
Like, if you want to know how to access the blockchain, like, all you got to do is do the get, like, you got to learn how to do the get tables command, and then you can look stuff up in the blockchain.
Oh, like get pull, get push.
Yeah, there's only one way to read EOS, and that's by downloading tables.
Yeah.
And once you learn that one way, you've got the one way that you can access data from EOS. You don't need to create an elemental battles game in order to learn how to read a table from EOS. You just need to learn one line of JavaScript. And guess what? The documentation for it is built into the command. Let me show you something quick. Go to this Deconnect blog, like Deconnect. Let me send you the link.
Got it. Hold on.
And what you run is this command. Okay, so you're running like eos.getTable rows in the console, and you'll see it gives you the parameters, like it gives you the full documentation how to run it. And nice. I refer to that every single time I have to write one of those statements. I refer to that. You see, I'm not like what I'm trying to tell you is make it easy for yourself, dude. You know, you don't have to start at the bottom. These days, you have to start at the top and work your way down. You can't start at the bottom. Otherwise, you got to work. Otherwise, you got to start with assembly language.
Dude, that's why I was like totally trying to figure out like the perfect fork. You know, like some fucking Twitter app or some Instagram clone that I could fucking clone and just make EOS the back end. You know,
just clone Deconnect blog, dude.
Huh?
Just clone Deconnect blog. That's why I made it.
Yeah.
I made it so that people can fork the tools and make, you know, other things. By the way, if you look at this, this same window, right? If you go to deconnect and then look at the things that it offers you, there's all the stuff that is included in deconnect. Are you seeing that? Let me share my.
Where are you at?
In the JavaScript console on the Deconnect blog page.
Oh, on the blog.
So you check here. If you go deconnect dot, see there's everything in deconnect. Everything I've written.
What do you mean everything you've written?
Like all the different bits of the deconnect blog. See there, like get hash, get parameter by name, hash code, HTTP request, include HTML tags, insert script.
That's all from the documentation, or are those variables?
No, that's all. That's stuff I've written. Check. That's this file, that file, that file, that file, that file. It's like I've bundled everything today so that everything goes under the word deconnect. There's all the functions.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So it's easy to write like other apps because it's all bundled under that, and it's easy to see everything that it can do because you can just look that up, you know.
Crazy.
Yeah. So my strongest suggestion is if you ever get stuck, write a console.log statement, pause your code over there, and look at the inspect it. Look at it. Look at what's causing the problem.
I'll try it next time.
The best thing to do is maybe, if you get stuck doing that, then you can always ask me again, and I can walk you through.
Right on. So let's close out the stream.
Cool.
I got to get ready for work soon.
Cheers, man.